Masterpiece Cakeshop owner in Jefferson County, who recently won a big Supreme Court ruling, is now going after the state. Jack Phillips is suing Colorado's governor, attorney general, and the Civil Rights Commission. Our Michael Abeta on that story at the Capitol. Michael, the baker says the state is now on a crusade against him.
Yeah, Jim, Jack Phillips says he's being sued once again by the state for turning down a custom cake request that goes against his religious beliefs. He also says this proves that the state doesn't like his beliefs or how he practices them.
Here we are.
Jack Phillips has been through this all before. In 2012, he declined to make a cake for a gay couple's wedding. The couple and the Colorado Civil Rights Commission sued him, claiming Jack discriminated against them. Jack argued that making the cake would be against his religious beliefs. In June, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled.
It was clear. It told the commission specifically, you're hostile to Jack's faith. You can't do that.
Now a Coloradan undergoing gender transition says Jack has refused to bake a cake for a person celebrating 7 years as a woman.
We told him as gracefully as we could that that was a cake that we could not create because of the message it was, but that he would, this attorney would be welcome in our shop at any time for any other custom work or pick out anything else from the shop.
Phillips is suing the state of Colorado, saying that the accusation of discrimination proves the state doesn't respect his religious beliefs.
And we have no choice but to go to federal court and try and sue the state commission to get them to stop suing me every time that I turn down a cake.
It's a difficult question. It's certainly one of the thorniest issues I've seen in 15 years in public service.
The governor supports religious freedoms of individuals, but thinks that people should never be denied goods or service based on their gender identity or sexual orientation.
I don't think that's what America stands for. I don't think it's what Colorado stands for.
And while Jack and his lawyers gear up for another legal fight, he just wants to get back to baking.
I always serve everybody. I just don't create every message on every cake.
Now, I reached out to the Colorado Department of Regulatory Agencies today. They said they can't comment on pending litigation. As for the governor, he says he knows the Supreme Court has ruled that the state was being hostile towards Jack's beliefs, but he'd also like to see them rule about whether baking a cake is a form of religious expression and if it's protected by the Constitution. At the Capitol, Michael Aveta, covering Colorado First.
The cake case is back. The Colorado baker who took his fight over religious freedom all the way to the Supreme Court is now suing the state.
Denver 7's Lance Hernandez slicing into both sides of the story tonight. And Lance, this time that conflict is about a cake that celebrated a transgender individual.
You know, it's no coincidence that on the day the U.S. Supreme Court agreed to hear the same-sex wedding cake lawsuit against Masterpiece Cakeshop, a local attorney called the bakery and asked Mr. Phillips to make her a birthday cake, blue on the outside, pink on the inside, to celebrate her gender transition. Well, Mr. Phillips, who has been doing interviews all day long, declined to make that cake. And then, of course, earlier this year, the Supreme Court ruled 7-2 in his favor on the wedding cake issue.
The United States Supreme Court told the commission that they were being hostile to my faith and that they can't do that. And yet this case shows hostility again towards my faith.
Autumn Scardina could have called any bakery. She called Masterpiece on the day the court announced it would hear the same-sex wedding cake case and asked Mr. Phillips to make a pink and blue cake to celebrate the anniversary of her gender transition. Phillips said he wouldn't create such a cake because God made male and female and that we don't get a choice to change that. Scardina then filed a complaint with the Civil Rights Division, which ruled that Masterpiece Cakeshop denied her equal enjoyment of a place of public accommodation. Phillips' attorney says the state is ignoring the previous Supreme Court ruling.
The Supreme Court found this hostility towards Jack's faith for two reasons. One, because the commission made hostile statements to him about his beliefs, and because the state was treating Jack unequally. They were allowing other cake artists to decline messages that they didn't want to create, but they were punishing Jack when he did the very same thing.
Many felt the issue was just a matter of religious freedom. But what the Supreme Court didn't do was issue an ironclad ruling on places of public accommodation, which is what Scardina and others want settled.
I think that if you read the Supreme Court ruling, they weren't very clear about his rights.
Governor John Hickenlooper says the justices felt there was a stacked deck against Mr. Phillips because of the tone of comments made by some members of the Civil Rights Division. He said the court needs to settle the accommodation issue.
Again, very difficult issue, whether someone who makes a product, a cake, is that a product or is that an expression of their religious values?
Now, Phillips says this is about the message, not the person. He says anyone can come in and purchase any baked goods in his shop there are just certain messages that he won't create. Autumn Scardina did not reply to our request for an interview or comment. Neither the Attorney General nor the Civil Rights Division are speaking today as well. Reporting live in Lakewood, Lance Hernandez, Denver 7.
The plot thickens. Thank you, Lance.